I was born and raised here, so hospitality is in my blood.
It's Beachwood. It's so many years of history.
This is a real labor of love. It's given me, and I think my family, many blessings. We've had terrific memories, great friends, and good times.
Beachwood Resort was built in 1926 by some people from Ohio. Their last name was Beach, and that's where it got its name. At that time it was called Beachwood Lodge, and it consisted of the main lodge, and that was it. There was no cottages. The building as you see it now, today, part of that building was built in 26. Our grandparents, Harry and Florence Morgan, purchased the resort in 1944 from the Beaches, from Ohio. All of Harry's family thought he was crazy selling the farm to buy a fishing lodge. However, it all worked out. I know my grandparents would be pleased if they could see it now. Just before the purchase, the letters back and forth from the Beaches to the Morgans included all the inventory, the number of kettles, forks, knives, etc., and blankets. There were 18 blankets, 10 with patches, but still warm. Once my grandparents took over, you could find Florence in the kitchen preparing meals over a wood stove. My grandfather could be found telling stories around the fish cleaning table, looking after boats and tending to his horses. At that time, sugar was rationed, so extended family members were asked to save their portions so they could be used in the dining room. Cotton fabric was bought by the bolt to make sheets. The material was cut just long enough to cover the mattresses, but not enough to tuck in. A few more cabins were added along the shore. The lodge operated from May to October, and the patrons were mostly Americans who came for the fishing. My grandparents lived at the resort in the summer and Norwood in the winter.
In the early days, people would come for a week or 2 weeks at least because the drive was so far. And most of them came from Cleveland or Ohio area.
So my dad was 6 years old when my grandparents bought this place. So he really lived and breathed the resort business. And then when my mom came along and they decided that that's what they wanted to do, at like age 20, who decides what they want to do at age 20?
Beachwood has been my home for 55 years. I came here when I was 19 and met my husband, and we were married for 32 years. When I was a teenager, my parents had a cottage down the lake, and that's how I happened to meet Fred. And we got married in '61, and the kids came along very shortly. We ran it with his parents for the 10 years. My mother-in-law and father-in-law were great. They lived here with us for the first summer. We didn't take it over until '71.
Well, my dad was a character. He didn't speak much, but when he spoke, you listened, because he always had something to say, and he could always get his point across, and you had to kind of walk away and think about what he said, and they go, oh yeah, he got me on that, or you know, I don't know how you put it. He was just he was a character. He loved the people, and there was lots of time when I was a kid. My dad would be sitting in the office and you'd see 3 or 4 of the clients standing in there talking to him, and they'd have hours of conversation. And so he really got to know his clientele.
My dad was a very quiet person. He never spoke a whole lot. He would never tell us what to do, but he always told a story or related things that happened to other people to make us be more considerate and to really think about what was going on. My mom and dad worked together, hand in hand. You know, Mom had her jobs, Dad had his jobs. They got along very well. They raised 3 great kids. They raised us up to be respectful individuals. It's hard work to work and be married together. So I think they did a great job. Selling the resort kind of came up in conversation when my dad was alive. And Steve and Dave and I got together, and you know, it's vague because it's a long time ago, but we decided that we would buy the resort off my parents. And he goes, "You realize you're buying yourself a job?" I said, "Yep, we know."
I'm so happy Dave and Krista have taken over. It's kept me in this precious place for a long time. It's wonderful to wake up in the morning, look out the window, and see the stunning sun, rain or snow, because the sight always changes.
My mom's probably the hardest working person I know.
She is here 24/7, literally. I come in the morning, if I'm in for breakfast shift, she's here already. She leaves mid-afternoon, she'll go and put her feet up for half an hour, and then she comes back for dinner service.
That's because nobody can serve the dessert but her.
That's true.
I'm the dessert guy. Yeah.
She says she's going to retire, but you can find her in the kitchen every day. She's doing laundry, and she's baking, and she's making sure that everyone's fed well. Always checking up on Chef Mike. What are you baking today? What are you cooking today? Always checking up.
She tries to retrain us every day too.
She's always got to have her hand in everything, which is understandable. She's been here forever, and she used to run it.
I had guests this weekend ask me if Karen was still swimming in the lake. A
Yeah,
lot of
you
guests,
don't tell
if
the
they're
story.
big swimmers, a lot of the guests like to join her and stuff, so they look to her for a swimming partner.
Yes, but she had a swimming partner the one day in the fall 2 years ago.
Yeah. They went across the lake, didn't they?
No, she was swimming up in front, and a doe had swam across the lake and was right behind her.
No way.
And Mike said, who's your swimming partner? And she turned around, and the doe was right there, about 10 feet behind her. And the doe turned around and swam right back across the lake.
Oh my goodness.
I am so grateful to have spent my life here, growing up as a child, working here. I finally moved away, and when I moved away, I realized what I left. So I would come back every weekend when I lived in Toronto, until finally I moved back with my husband and my children. I raised my children here. They've worked here. I'm still here. I'm very grateful for the opportunity to spend my life here.
Get up in the morning, you're overlooking the lake, it's gorgeous. We spend a lot of time on our property, four-wheeling and fishing and hunting and stuff like that. You know, my boys have never been inside playing video games, because growing up here, in a small family business, everybody works. But there's all kinds of things to do, from fishing to hunting to boating to water skiing. It's right at your fingertips.
You're 3 brothers and sisters, so who are the 3rd generation?
Yeah, I'm 3rd generation, and I'm Krista.
I'm 3rd generation, I'm Dave.
I'm 3rd generation, I'm Steve.
Who's the oldest?
I am.
Who's the bossiest?
He is.
Oh, Mom.
There's a difference between bossy and opinionated. So I would say bossy, opinionated. Einstein and the annoying man.
Yeah, you would have to say that.
So Joanne, you're family but not family.
That's right. And
Dave,
now
how is that for you?
Great. She's a godsend. Well, she, I don't know how we do it without her, because she knows everything that's going on. She doesn't tell me anything that's going on anymore. But, I just ask Joanne, and she just has the answers, right? So.
It's a lot of hard work, but we are very fortunate that we were given the opportunity to live right next door, work here. My commute is 3 minutes downhill with squirrels and chipmunks in my way. When my kids were little, I brought them to work. So how fortunate is that?
I'm very proud of what we have. I love it, but it is definitely a love-hate relationship. We have 6 family members working here from 4 generations. One day I'd like to retire. I'm hoping one of my kids or Clayton would step in and take the reins from me so I could retire.
I was born and raised here. I just love everything about it. I love working with family, love seeing all the guests every year. I never really noticed like how beautiful it was. Like, you kind of take it for granted, but sometimes you just got to stop and look out across the water. It's pretty nice from down by the cottages, looking out at the islands and stuff. If my life turns out to be the way that I want it to, I would be here forever.
I'm part of the fourth generation, up and coming. If it all works out the way I want it to, I will be working here when I'm older. I've always had it in my mind to be able to step into my dad's shoes and be able to take this place over and run it one day.
Well, that's my brother, Brayden. Nicholas, Caleb, Jack are all brothers. Clayton and Wade, brothers, and then there's me. So I was the only girl cousin, like, growing up.
She could fold her cousins up like a cheap suitcase. Quite easily. Yeah.
Who's the oldest of the cousins?
Wade.
Who's the bossiest of the cousins?
Harley.
You had to be, right?
We haven't heard any stories from Lindsay.
So I am Mike's daughter. I came a little bit later, but I used to come in the summers when I was 14?
13, I was
13?
thinking.
Because I remember when I met Harley, because she was terrified of me. She was like, I met her.
Everyone that came ate breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Yeah.
My grandmother, Florence, did a lot of the cooking.
We had a dinner bell, you'd ring the dinner bell.
Yeah, we had a dinner bell. So at breakfast, one morning, it'd be fried eggs and bacon. The next morning, it would be French toast. The next morning, it would be eggs. The next morning, it'd be pancakes. You had no choice. You ate it or you
Didn't eat.
didn't eat.
Same with dinner.
Frederick's is our on-site restaurant, Lakeside Dining, and it was named after my dad. For years, we had Beachwood Resort and the dining room. So we realized that we needed to give it a name. So what better name than Frederick after my dad? Mike Henson is our chef. He's been with us for many years, and he is excellent. He's a great guy. He fits in with all of us really well. He cooks everything from scratch. He loves what he does, and he's very talented.
One of the reasons I come back is the Morgans. They're a great family to work for. They're just really humble, down-to-earth people. Well, you know, we're busy in the kitchen, but when we have downtime, we'll sit around and have a beer or a glass of wine and just talk about life, what's going on, how things are going, how their kids are doing. We just really connect. It's just very tight-knit. They make you feel like your family.
So this was before my time, but before refrigeration, the cottages had ice chests. So it was one of my dad's jobs on a daily basis to make sure the ice chests had ice all summer. So where this ice came from was, in the wintertime, they would take the horses and the sleigh out into the lake and cut the ice, load it on the sleigh. They would drive with the horses up around back, and they would load these big chunks of ice into the ice house. That's the ice that my dad would go get to put it in the ice chests in all the cottages to keep everybody's food.
Would stay in the summer?
Yep.
The bottom row in that ice house would be there for years.
Yeah, for years. You never used it.
So what they did is they had a saw. It was a big circular saw.
I had the blade.
It would lower into the ice, and once they got the grid all made, they would bust the first one out, shove it underneath, and then it would come up and hit the rest of them and bust them free. You know, the last time we did it, the guy came and did it and then told Grandpa he had to buy the saw. Because everybody else had moved into ice machines, and when Grandpa wanted it done again, he said, well, you're the last guy to move, and he said, if you want me to come because it's a dying business, you need to buy the saw, so Grandpa bought the saw.
Our Uncle Rick didn't come along for 12 years, but Fred was always there for his little brother.
We were not bad water skiers. We did the show, and we learned how to go over the ski jump there. The first time I come up to a ski jump, it's looking like a friggin' brick wall. I went over it and I let go of the rope, and I didn't do no 14-point landing. So the next time around over we went, and I thought, oh, this is pretty easy. So we come right back here, and her dad, immediately he built us a ski jump, and we had a ski jump here for years after that.
Yeah.
And lots of entertaining things, taking people over the jumps that we're trying to do. It looked easy when we were doing it, but it wasn't that easy.
The ski jump turned out to be more of a hazard and less entertainment when the guests started getting hurt, so he soon stopped that. Richard and his son Tyler lived very close to the resort, but he was camera shy, and this is the only story we could get out of him.
I can remember the one story was my oldest son, Steve, came running into the kitchen one day and said, "Daisy's in the harbor." And he meant David was in the harbor. But he couldn't say that word. So it's David fallen in the harbor. By the time we got down here, he was up and moving around. But they all fell in. It didn't matter who they were, they all fell in. Even his kids fell in.
Yeah.
Daisy.
Yeah.
Daisy, yes. Yeah, Daisy.
Did you live it down?
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, well, she still calls me Daisy at times, but I knew that story was coming. Yeah, I've heard it a few times.
Want to hear a really gross story?
Oh, I know exactly
You
what
know
it
the one with Dad when the guy lost his dentures in the septic tank?
Oh, that was hilarious! That was absolutely
There were these
hilarious.
6 guys staying here. They're in the Monarch and they partying hard one night. Well, one guy got sick and got thrown up in the toilet. Well, the next day he wakes up and he doesn't have his dentures. So he tells Dad. So Dad phones Mr. Cheshire and he brings a septic tank truck over and he pumps out the tank, and all of a sudden there they are at the bottom of the tank. So he reaches in with the garden rake and pulls them out. The guy grabs them, runs down to the dock, goes like that in the water and throws them back in his mouth. Well, the other 5 guys all start puking.
And he says, well, they're porcelain.
Well, they're porcelain, they're clean, and away he went.
Now, why don't you tell them about your first big fish story, since you're such a fisherman?
Well, I don't really remember it.
Don't you?
Yes, you were 4 on the front dock.
Oh, I remember this. I remember this. So Mum was working, so City was here, and you wanted to go fishing really bad.
Yeah.
And Mr. Rossi was down on the dock putting worms on everybody's hook. So everybody else out there is catching sunfish, perch. Jack's first fish is a bass. Nice bass. Brings it in. So they puts another worm on it, tosses it back out there. Next thing you know, the bobber goes down, the rod's going over, the fish is pulling Jack off the dock. Mr. Rossi's got him by the waist. He's reeling like and all I hear is all the people in the resort screaming, "Oh my God, oh my God." So I come running out here and there's just some kid on the dock caught this 32-inch muskie. I said, really? Nobody knows who he is, the kid.
In 2016, we had our 90th birthday here at the resort, and as we were reviewing our guests, stories came up. And as I was telling our guests how much they mean to us at these birthday parties, every week I get more and more choked up by it. They're not just our guests. We think of them as family and friends. Yeah, the resort's very special to me.
This is my dad, Fred Morgan. This is Willard Harper.
Tell everybody about Willard.
Willard would always fall asleep in the chair. He always smoked big cigars.
Cigars.
So there was always burns around his shirt.
Every afternoon he'd be sitting out on the porch in a rocking chair.
And then he would go around asking everybody to catch soft-shell crayfish at night. So anyhow, he would fish over by Spook Island all the time, and he used to drive by and he'd be sound asleep like this, and the rod over, and then when that fish would bite the rod, he'd set the hook and wake up and reel him in. And he did this for years.
Yeah.
And
How long did they come for?
Oh God,
40 years, over 40 years.
Yeah.
And his wife Isabel had a walker. We would get her up to the second level, and the lodge at that time had a screened-in front porch, and she'd always sit at the coffee table or the card table and overlook the lake. And so then, for years in July, Steve and I and Krista would go up and play Kings in the Corner with her. She taught us card shark.
She taught us
every card game going. She taught us.
Yeah. Isabel had polio, which affected her mobility. We would take her breakfast and lunch up the stairs to the porch near her room. All the fishermen would come in at 4 o'clock and cocktail hour would start. I remember the smell of Limburger cheese and liverwurst. Isabel would make the trek down the stairs to the dining room for dinner to join everyone. There was a large group of them at one point. Some would stay for 2 weeks. The Harpers stayed for a month. All were from Columbus, Ohio area. Over the years, the group became smaller and smaller. We don't know whatever happened to the Harpers. One year they just never came. Of course, there was no internet or emails back then, so we had no way to get a hold of them other than the telephone. When we didn't hear from them about March or April, we called and there was just no answer. They didn't have any children, so there was no way of getting a hold of them. And we didn't know anyone that knew them, because most of the large group had passed. It's a bit sad to know now.
So those cottages that were beside the main lodge, there was bedrooms, but you could throw things over top of the wall and land in the next bedroom. And when the Sukadeks used to come up, we used to jump off the rafters onto the beds because they were the old spring beds, and then they would be like a trampoline. And I can remember my dad coming in and me and Joe and Dave Mendick and Paul Mendick standing in the rafters. Didn't go over very well. Yeah. Joe Sukadek still comes here. He actually married one of the waitresses from here. He's from Ohio, and they come down with their 4 kids.
And I have a picture here, and I think his name is Frank. This would be Joe's grandfather.
Yep.
Yeah.
So Frank Sukanek, picture he's fishing off the dock. It could be yesterday for that matter, for how it looks. He used to come before our grandparents bought the place.
Yeah, he came in 1942 the first time.
And our grandparents bought this place in 44.
I think that's amazing that we have guests that have been coming that long. It just is incredible that they keep coming back year after year. And that their kids and then their grandkids now are coming. It's pretty amazing.
From when you were a little kid, how different is this place?
I don't think it's much different. I think we're more, maybe the accommodations and everything are more modern now, but I think the atmosphere is the same. We got, the lake looks the same. Nothing's changed on the lake. The
feeling's still the same.
Yeah. It's still family oriented.
What our kids are doing, we did the exact same thing. And just even what you did, like, hang out with the guests and go swimming and go out to the islands with the guests and the staff and stay up late at night with the guests and the staff and sit around the campfire. And I saw a picture of Dave and Steve and I with a group of kids our own age. There's a picture, we're sitting on a lawn chair down on the water, and somebody just shared something on Facebook the other day, and it was Harley, Braden, Jack, Nick, and the kids from Fleckenstein. So it's like, it's history repeating itself. And they're one of our longtime guests. They're 4th generation. So grandparents, parents, kids, and now their children come every year. And this group actually comes twice a year, and they've been coming for 38 years, I believe.
Mary and Jim's kids grew up here with the Morgan kids.
Well, my brother more or less was buddies with Dave and Steve Morgan and Krista Morgan. But also I was a couple years younger.
So they've literally grown up together. And now David and Caleb are good friends, and
it's just like one big family here. So that's why we've been coming here for 40-some years, and we also come here in the winter.
It's very interesting, the whole dynamic of all the guests. There's many people that continue to come. The same week, the same cottage every year, and they've met the people beside them. So they've created friendships.
So Katie started coming with us when we started dating, and then when we decided to get married, this was actually Katie's idea. So yeah, so we ended up getting married here. We had all the cottages rented for the guests and stuff.
Pretty amazing. We just had our 9th anniversary.
Yeah, so almost 10. Yeah.
We were with Dave's 2 youngest kids, Caleb and Nick, and we were all telling scary stories to each other. So then we had this great idea. We said, hey, let's go out into the low farms, and there's the silos over there, and they're haunted. And we're like, that's the best idea we've ever heard, but let's wait till it's really dark.
Yeah, epic.
Of course, as soon as the sun goes down, everybody starts to get a little spooked. Then we start hearing things, of course. And Nick says, I'm gonna do a Yeti call. Go ahead, Nick.
Should we? Can try. I don't know what a Yeti sounds like.
Okay, you do the call. I'll get it on tape. Ready?
We'll do a walk.
Okay. And then we just got really spooked. And we ended up having to call Jack and Clayton, and they had to come pick us up on the four-wheelers. There is no Yetis in these parts.
My mom used to come up with us she was in a walker, and she didn't get around very good. She had kind of bad balance and stuff, so she would, we always stayed here, so we'd pop her in the car and drive her around to behind the kitchen and go in through the back door. And it was really a kind of a homey atmosphere. Dennis was the cook at the time. He was a great guy. He'd stop what he was doing and come over and say hello to her, and he was really busy, and you knew he was, but he still made the time to say hello, which was really nice.
Such a beautiful setting. 330 acres to play around with on four-wheelers and bicycles, and just being on that acreage and knowing that it belongs to us, it's lovely.
What can I say about Karen? She's like my mom. She is, I love her to pieces, and she works so hard. She's a strong, strong woman. She just never stops.
The children have taken over, Dave and Krista, and they were doing an excellent job. And although I come over every day to have the camaraderie that goes on in the kitchen, but they're doing the work planning, and I think it's great, because I would have not been here if it hadn't been for them.
I think Beachwood's different because it is family run and it's, the fourth generation. I love what I do, I love being here, and I love the Morgans.
I feel so fortunate working here and living here, working with my family and with my friends.
It's a great spot. You just got to come and experience it for yourself.
I'm thankful for what we have here. You don't appreciate it as much until other families come up, and then you watch them for their week and they're dying to come back a year later. Being that we are a small family-owned resort, I think that's what sets us apart from the rest, because when the families come, they see our families.
I'm very grateful to be here close to my mother and my brothers. Very often people get separated because of work or where they live. So where I am, I'm right next door. So that is a fortunate thing.
It makes me feel wonderful.
I know Dad would be very pleased.